Hey everyone, welcome to the Rugger. I'm going to go through a bit of the URC, but I want to get that done quite fast today because the last week has been pretty mental in terms of Irish rugby. If you've been looking at the squad updates, it's been a bit like the beaches of Saving Private Ryan or something. They're just dropping like flies out there on the beach. So I want to get right into that talk. I'll just go through the URC results pretty briskly. We had last week we had Munster against Dragons. That was a home game in Parky Queeve. 22-20 to Munster. Very, very close for the last 25 minutes. Dragons were quite out in front. So, yeah, it was very strange to see. Just wasn't expecting that because I only caught the second half. So, I actually thought Dragons were going to do a bit of a robbery there. But Munster did pull away in the end. But, geez, very close. Too close for comfort, especially for a home game, but it's still a win, and it breaks Munster's unfortunate losing streak that they've been suffering for the last month, really. So look, you have to take that, take what you can at this stage. Then you had the Scarlets against Ulster, and the Scarlets actually beat Ulster. It feels like a bit refreshing because Ulster have been on such a winning run this season, and you have to admit that Scarlets kind of deserved it, I guess. The try that they finished with was probably the best try I've seen of the URC so far. If you haven't seen it, do watch the highlights. It's a fantastic try that was set up by a brilliant pass. I don't know the names of the players involved, but it was beautiful. So fair play to Scarlets. Not a huge deal for Ulster. They're still quite high in the rankings for the URC. So, it's if you're going to suffer a loss, that was a good one to suffer. So fair play to the Scarlets. We'd like to see those Welsh teams as well. They're kind of fighting for their lives at the moment because of the relegation that's happening at the moment, the downsizing that's happening with Welsh rugby. So it's a tough time for them. So we want to see them doing better for their clubs and country. So good to see that. And then you had Connacht against Leinster. That was the best game of the weekend, really, from an Irish perspective, because you still had a lot of A1 players playing the game last week because the camp hadn't started until this week. So if you were an Irish player that was called for the squad, the original 37-man squad, uh, I was afraid that maybe they'd be taken out even by this game, but they weren't. So Leinster did put on a very strong side. It was down in Galway City, and the Dexcom Stadium has recently been revamped. So it was great to see Connacht play. It was okay, they lost. It was 34 points to 23, but it was still a very honourable defeat, you could say. But the stadium looks great. It's got 12,500 capacity now, and it just looks really slick and professional. So I'm just delighted for that for Connacht fans. The Dexcom Stadium just is looking really good right now, and the wait has paid off. And it really added to the atmosphere. The atmosphere was fantastic. Connacht supporters were loving it because Connacht were actually in lead at several points. I think they was tied twice, and Leinster eventually fought back at the end of the game. But Connacht really did quite well to be putting Leinster on the pump like that against such a, I suppose, highly renowned Leinster squad at the moment. So good to see. Yes, it's a loss for Connacht, but there's signs of improvement there, signs of promise there. So still waiting for the screw to turn for Connacht for them to start winning. Really feel like they need to win the upcoming game against Zebra, but for the time being, you should still be happy with that because it was a great spectacle of a game. Um, and the scrum, especially in the scrum as well. This guy Billy Bowen that has now been picked for the Ireland squad. The scrum actually, the Connacht scrum seemed to really dismantle the Leinster scrum, so it was promising to see that it was, not all Leinster, not all the, how would I say, not all one-way traffic in terms of the scrum from Leinster. Also, this guy, Sean Jansen, I think is how you pronounce his name. He seems to be an up-and-comer people are talking about at the moment. He was playing for Connacht. Kind of still trying to recognize him on the field, but that's the buzz. It's this guy, Sean Jansen, is one to watch for the future. So that was the games. Now this weekend coming up, we've got Glasgow against Munster. So it's an away game for Munster that's on this evening on Friday at 7:45. And then you've got Zebra against Connacht, again, another away game for this time for Connacht at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'm actually going to be at the Leinster game tomorrow in Dublin. They're playing Edinburgh at 5:30. A very drained squad because so many guys now are in camp. So across all the provinces, but especially Leinster, they're very short-handed. So they'll be putting in a lot of their B players, C players, academy players, which is great because we want to see these guys get a bite of the apple as well, get some experience. So looking forward to that. They do have people like Rico Ioane and RG Snyman that will be playing because obviously they're international players. They don't have to answer to the Six Nations call. So good to see them get, proper buzz and focus and time. And then at 7:45 tomorrow in the evening, we've got Ulster against Cardiff. So it will be a very jam-packed day of rugby. There's no games on Sunday. So you got 3 games, a nice sequence there if you want to see all the provinces play. So it should be a nice slam of a Saturday. So yeah, just want to really get into the injury crisis that's facing Ireland at the moment. It's not too great. Well, I mean, you could look at this 2 ways. A lot of people are giving it negative press. The Irish rugby media, they're giving a lot of negative filter on it. But me as a fan and as a real advocate of depth and practicing depth. You look at a team like South Africa, they have depth beyond any nation in the world. It feels like they could call up 100 players at the drop of a hat. Ireland doesn't have that. Historically, has never had that. We hold on to, it's like a government job. It's like you really have to screw up to get off this team. It's just very, is it too loyal? Possibly, yes. It's too, I suppose, allegiance based. We have our central contracts. That's another wrinkle in this. So you're always frustrated as an Irish fan, especially if you're watching the last World Cup in 2023. There was no rotation at all, even for the small games against Romania and Tonga. We really should have been putting on our B teams there and wrapping Johnny Sexton in cotton wool, but we didn't. We ran that team into the ground, just picking the best 15 every round. And by that quarterfinal, they were just knackered. So it's great to see now we can practice depth, although it's an indirect technique. It's through injuries for most of them and one disciplinary issue from Bundy Aki. But it is probably, for me anyway, watching down the years, it is the most injury-stricken squad I have seen in my life from an Ireland's perspective. So I've broken it down to a few categories because it's been really hard to keep up. The last week, there's been a lot happening. And I dare say, it never rains, it just pours. So I would say we could even see more injuries. Touch wood, no, but, just over the next 5 days or so, it just seems to be going that way. So yeah, we'll see anyway. Who was out before? So before the squad was even named, 37-man squad was even named, there were injuries of some very good players of ours. You had Hansen, Jimmy O'Brien, Robbie Henshaw, Ryan Bard, who was really coming into his own, Paddy McCarthy, who had really put his stamp on it, loose head, as a backup for Andrew Porter. And then Andrew Porter himself, one of our most famous players, and Calvin Nash, the winger from Munster. So there's some good players there. You could argue Henshaw is past it. Jimmy O'Brien hasn't been great. Nash is okay at the moment. But people like Hansen, who did amazing as a fullback for Ireland against Australia in the autumn, he got an unfortunate injury that just looks very long sustaining. And then Ryan Bard broke his leg in the same season, same autumn games, who was really coming into his own as a forward. I mean, he's always been good, but last year he was looking really good. And then we have our 2 loose heads, our 2 prime loose heads, Andrew Porter, who's really been nailed on for years and years now. He's owned that position. Sometimes he plays that position for 75 minutes. He really has owned that position. And then Paddy McCarthy came along last year and was really tearing up trees. So we were like, great, we've got Paddy McCarthy now to back up this guy. Fantastic. You might lose 1 loose head every once in a while, but 2 is very rare. So that has happened before even the squad was named. So already that loose head position was under pressure. What has happened since that squad has been announced? Who is out now in the interim since it was announced? We have 4 people, but probably the one that makes the biggest impact is Jack Boyle, because he was our backup of the backup for loosehead, and he was still very capable. And you could see as well during the season he's been doing good. He just got sidelined by Paddy McCarthy because he came onto the scene, was kind of stealing his thunder a bit, but he stayed patient and he was going to be the starting loosehead absolutely for this tour. But now he's gone off and gotten a terrible injury, so he's out. So the loosehead position is really under some serious pressure. I mean, it's almost an anomaly You've never seen the loose head so vulnerable at this point. So I will go through. I have picked a 15 and a 23 that I think at the moment, if we were to play tomorrow, we should go up against France. So I'll talk about those loose head options. But yeah, it's just very unfortunate. But this is why you need to build depth. You need to rotate. It's a good lesson. Is Andy Farrell kind of rubbing his hands saying, "Oh God, great! This is a great opportunity to really practice our depth"? Maybe, but the way he picks, you just think he will be feeling for these guys that won't get a chance. I know in an interview he was saying for Jack Boyle especially, he's like, the poor guy, he grafted and he did the work and now he's out. So then Tom Ahern as well, the lock from Munster, who I was really looking forward to. He just has shocking luck with these injuries because he was picked for the autumn squad as well. And the same thing happened. He just got injured right before the tour was taking off. So he is out on injury. Hugo Keenan, who really has had a famous run now of being injured. He had his hip surgery after the Lions tour. He was star of the Lions tour. His try won the tour for the Lions. So he, was on high dough. And then in the autumn, he had to get hip surgery. He just got back from it. And now he's broken his thumb in training on Tuesday this week. So now he is out for the foreseeable future. No chance of him coming back in time for any of the Six Nations game, which is a heartbreaker because he's the fullback. He is like the eternal president of that position. Like that's his position if he's fighting fit. So after all this waiting now, he's just snatched away from us again. So it's really unfortunate. He will be back. He's just too good a player, has too much credit in the bank, done too many good things. I always think of him like Ireland's goalkeeper. He's saved so many tries. Don't mind about the tries that he's set up or scored, but he has saved so many tries for Ireland because he is such a skilled, fast, athletic fullback. So really, I think that's the worst one out of them all. Combined with the people before, the people out now, Hugo Keane being out is the biggest blow. Because the fullback position, it tends to just, there's a few people that can play that position, but in terms of owning it, I think Hugo Keenan owns it the best. And Ireland play the best when he is at fullback. So that's a bummer. Then we have Bundy Aki. So it's just every kind of circumstances happening now because of Bundy Aki's disciplinary result. Basically what happened last week in the Connacht game, he was giving too much back chat to the ref. There's been rumors, well, they're not rumors, it's fact really, that Irish players have been talking back to refs too much across the board. And I think Bundy Aki has simply just been made an example of because he has been given a 4-game ban. So including this week, even though he would have been in Portugal training, it counts for this week, the Connacht game, and it'll count for the first 3 games of the Six Nations. So the bulk of it really, he will not be available for selection. Could have been a lot worse. Apparently, even after the game, he was giving back chat, giving stuff to the refs after it was over. Now, he's done that before, so it's not like a first offence. So, yes, he is out. Now, there's a good way to look at it, bad way to look at it. Of course, it's never good for an Irish player, especially one that's very beloved, as Bundy Aki is, to get this kind of negative press. But glass half full, it is time for him to hang up the boots. No, we're just 18 months out for World Cup and we need to blood those centres. And the only way through the current algorithm of how Ireland works is for a player to step down for other people to get that chance. So people have been saying, is he done for good now? I don't think so. I think he'll be picked straight again once he's available. But it's a great opportunity to test those centres that we want to test, like Jude Postlethwaite now has been added to the squad. So there is positives to look at it. It's not a major blow. And I think even if Bundy Aki was available, he's better off the bench right now as an impact player. He's got a hell of a lot of IP, a lot of experience. He was the nominee for World Player of the Year back in the World Cup in 23. So he has all that kind of, that repertoire, that resume as a player. And, he's such a popular character. He's a hugely popular character in the squad with fans everywhere. Doesn't matter if you're a Connacht supporter or whatever, Irish supporter in general. Everybody seems to love Bundy Aki. He's an international that really went out to Ireland and made it work for himself and, built this great life for himself. And, that's something to be commended for. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens throughout the tournament, if he's back on the squad or not. But it's an interesting development. So that's who's out now. I also put a row in for who's dicey. So who is on the squad, but looking kind of like they're not really ready to play tomorrow. So for that, I've named Jamie Osborne, who had a soft tissue, still recovering in terms of the soft tissue from injury. I just don't think he should be played yet. I really don't. Even though he's a Swiss Army knife of a player, can cover a lot of positions in the backs. I just think against a team like France, you need to be 100% full tank of gas. So I'd like to rest him and mind him so we can use him later in the tournament. Otherwise, I just think he's going to blow up. And then Robert Balakoon, the winger from Ulster, he's also looking a bit sketchy. Like, they're looking at him, making sure that he's not going to get, I suppose, a relapse of injury or something. But he is on their radar for looking after. I don't think he'll be picked for next week either. And then we have Tyke Furlong, who is this calf issue of his that just is recurring all the time. It would really, I would be very doubtful if he's picked next week for tight head, because it just sounds like he's been given a different agenda at training. He's not training at the same level as everyone else. And when that happens, it's just not going to be in time for this, because the squad is going to be picked on Tuesday. This is the earliest game in Six Nations history. This is on a Thursday night. So it's breaking all kinds of records. You're going to get your squad that's normally named on a Thursday, that will be named on a Tuesday next week. So it's a weird way to start your week, because you got the bank holiday on Monday, and then you're back to work on Tuesday, and already the Irish squad is out. It's just weird, because you're so used to the end of the week, that kind of announcement. So they have their captains on Wednesday. So you will find out who's going to come around fast, who the squad is going to be. And I would not be surprised if there is some twists there. I don't see Tyke Furlong being on the tight head. So with that, we have who's out before the squad, who's out now, who's looking a little bit dicey, and who has been added to the squad. So Cormac Ojukwu, big fan, he has been added. That's great. I think he was a bit injured before the squad was picked, so it seems that he's okay now, but he has been added. Then we got Jude Postlethwaite from Ulster, another Ulster player. So that's great. He's been picked because of Bundiaki's departure. And then we have Billy Bohan. So this is the guy that was playing for Connacht last week on Saturday, that seemed to just be doing really well in the scrum against Leinster. He's barely any experience for Connacht. I think he's been in a handful of games. I think he's 20 years old, but he played very well in the under-20s championship for Ireland. And Andy Farrell is really good at spotting talent, so I'm just excited for this guy. I really hope he gets a chance. He's a very young loose head who must be absolutely over the moon he's gotten this opportunity. I mean, just, imagine being Billy Bohan, getting that call from Andy Farrell out of the blue that you're going to be on the Irish squad for this Six Nations. I'd say he was just going crazy, but best of luck to him. Really do hope he gets an opportunity. It would be great if it's just one of those kind of fairy tale stories where, because of unfortunate circumstances, this guy gets a chance to really prove himself and does well. We all always love those kind of opportunities and stories. So really hope Billy Bohan gets a chance to shine. So those are the people added. Now, with everything like this happening, and it's just the craziest list. It's been the craziest week of injuries I've seen ever, especially for Ireland. With everything taken into account, those injuries, who's looking a bit unsteady, I thought, okay, who's going to be the 23 that we pick? So this is kind of who I would pick. And also there's one or two people in there that I picked just because I know Andy Farrell is going to pick him anyway, so there's no point in challenging it. And that's, of course, referring to James Lowe, who just seems always nailed on as left winger, whether you like it or not. So, yeah, we've got loose heads. I've put Jeremy Loughman in to start and Michael Milne as a guy on the bench for that position. That's really kind of the best that we can do for our loose heads. Now, they're good Munster players, but they don't have that many caps between them. Jeremy Loughman has marginally more. So I just hope those guys, I wish them luck. I hope they do well, but that's the real kind of chink in the armor. That's where we're very, very vulnerable. Will France target that? Will they really be going for the scrum? And remember, in the autumn, South Africa destroyed Ireland in the scrum. It was like a tutorial to the rest of the world. This is how you destroy Ireland's scrum. It was embarrassing. It was like, people were traumatized. You nearly needed a hotline number to call to get over that. It was such a statement. So they will be eyeing the scrum. The French will be looking at the scrum. So those are the loose heads I've got in mind. For the hooker, pretty nailed on, very predictable. Dan Sheehan with Ronan Keller backing him up. Dan Sheehan's one of the best hookers in the world. Really hope he gets a chance to captain the side at some stage, but that's for hookers. For tight head, because I'm just totally not convinced Tyke Furlong is going to play, otherwise he would be picked, I'm going to say Thomas Clarkson first. He's been doing very well this season. He's a young tight head, but he's very capable, very skilled. And then Finlay Bealham on the bench, because even though I love Finlay, I think he's had a knock as well. He's not as bad as Tyke Furlong, but he has been kind of gotten that, that brand of being, he had a knock and he was kind of taking it easy, but he's still training and everything. So hopefully he'll be okay for this game. But very dependable on the bench. I think he's actually better on the bench than starting, to be honest, as an impact player. So that's the front row. And then for the locks, very, very easy decision, really. Joe McCarthy, now that he's fit, I'm going to say Joe McCarthy and James Ryan. Some people don't like James Ryan because of his discipline record. I still think he's a terrific lock and really good disruptor of the opposition when he's playing well. When he's playing well, he's the other team's worst nightmare. So I'm saying Joe McCarthy and James Ryan. And then Edwin Adogbo, the Munster man, he's uncapped. I would love to see him off the bench. I'm thinking a 6-2 split anyway. But for the locks as a backup, I want Adogbo there because he's just got a lot of potential and just a really exciting player. I was watching on the Ireland team Instagram account his interview. You could tell he was really chuffed, just really thankful to be here, smiling for the camera, taking the poses for those snapshots that you see of the team when the list has been read out before the game, and their kind of profile picture if they score, those kind of pictures they were taking. And you could just see he was having the time of his life. He's just so happy with himself to be on that squad. It's always great to see that. And he's really earned it. He's really just he's really earned the right to be there. So looking forward to seeing him being included here. And then for the back row, blindside flanker, I'm thinking Ty Byrne. He could be a lock as well, but I think lately the last year or so, I think he's just better in the back row with the other guys. Caelan Doris, he's the captain, nailed on for number 8. And then open side flanker, Josh Van Fleur, again, nailed on. He's had that spot for years now. For backup for the back row, I'm thinking Keane Prendergast and Jack Conan. Very dependable guys, and I think they're best off the bench. So those are the forwards. Now we're going a little bit further down. For the scrum half, I'm saying Jameson Gibson Park. He's our best scrum half, not even close. And then Craig Casey to back him up off the bench. Now for the fly half, always a controversial topic, especially now more than ever with another guy in the mix. We've got Harry Byrne, Jack Crowley, Sam Prendergast. I'm thinking Harry Byrne deserves a shot, and I think the French would be caught unawares if Harry Byrne was selected for the starting fly half. I think he's had a great season. He's really come back onto the scene. He's a little bit older than the other two lads. He's a bit more mature. That clutch kick against La Rochelle, I just can't stop thinking about that. I just think it was such a moment for him, a defining kind of like character moment for him this season. So I really just love to see someone come out of the shadows and really claim it. So I think he's earned the right. In my gut, I think Andy will probably pick Sam Prendergast because he loves Sam. He invests very heavily in Sam, but I think Harry Byrne will be better. And then off the bench, I would say Sam Prendergast because of the 6-2 split. He can also cover fullback. And he's just been playing better than Jack Crowley. Jack Crowley's just gone down this season. I'd love to see him, get better, of course. But I just don't think at the moment he's got money in the bank with Andy Farrell compared to the other two fly halves. So I'm putting Sam on the bench. I think that could be either or. I don't think Jack Crowley will get a chance, but I think it'll be either Sam first and Harry on the bench or the other way around come Tuesday when the squad's released. So that's the halfbacks. And then for the centres, I think it's a pretty simple choice. Stuart McCluskey's been great this season. Great against the All Blacks before he got injured. Inside centre for him. Gary Ringrose is back now, outside centre. He's had that position for a good while. I think they'd be great together as a centre partnership. And then for wingers, James Lowe, as I said, like Andy Farrell just loves him. He has not, doesn't seem like he's been on form at all lately. But yeah, I just don't see him not being picked. I think it's because he's also got that ability to really kick the ball with his left boot. I think that's what ends the argument for Andy Farrell when he's trying to decide that left winger. It's just James Lowe's ability to kick with his left boot, and just, he's you have to say for a winger, he's good at defending as well. He's just, just hasn't scored tries compared to earlier on 2 years ago. He was a try scoring machine. I just feel like he has not scored tries in so long for Ireland. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. That's my only compromise. I don't really want James Lowe there. I prefer Jacob Stockdale mainly, but that's what I think is going to happen. For right winger, it's got to be Tommy O'Brien. He's been having a great season. I don't think it's even close. It just has to be Tommy O'Brien. He's just been a great player at the moment. And then for fullback, it could be anybody really, but I'm saying Jacob Stockdale based on form because he has really earned the right to be on the team. He's probably better as a left winger, as I said, but for fullback, I just don't think Jamie Osborne is ready. I don't think he is. He hasn't played a game in a good while because of injury, whereas Jacob Stockdale is in form. You know, he's just he's a cab off the ranks. He's just finished playing a load of games. So I think he is the healthiest person out of fullback. You could have Jack Crowley as fullback. Absolutely. You could have Sam Prendergast as fullback, which would be bonkers, but he has been playing fullback for Leinster occasionally in the last couple of months. And who is the other person? You got Jamie. Yeah, I think that's everybody. Jamie, Jacob, Sam, Jack. Oh yeah, and Kieran Frawley. Kieran Frawley also, I could easily change this for Kieran Frawley, but I just don't think it's going to be him for some reason. I think he's been playing very well this season, but internationally, he just seems to have not hit the stride that we're looking for of the last year. I could be wrong. He could get picked for this, or maybe for the bench because he can pick a lot of people. He can cover a lot of positions. You know, he'd be ideal for the bench, but I just don't see him starting at fullback. I think Jacob just has him by an inch, but I would like to see him in the mix regardless. So we'll see. So yeah, that's my 23. This is going to change at the rate that we're losing players. I feel like we're going to lose 6,000 players over the next 3 days. At this rate, it's Murphy's law, you know. It's just anything could go wrong now. So I might try and guess another 23 maybe on Monday before the squad drops, just if there is a big change in the composition of our players and how they're feeling. So yeah, it's an interesting time. I kind of love it, to be honest, because deep down you know that the depth, getting to experiment with depth of players would be a huge coup as an Irish fan. Do we really care about a Six Nations a year out from a World Cup? We've won it a couple of times over the last few years. It's not, it's not the end of the world if we have a totally crap Six Nations, but get guys to get real good experience and see who can really rise to the challenge. So I think it's a worthy trade-off at this stage. It'd be something new. It would be a new tactic. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, that's the definition of insanity. So I don't think we can really lose, even if we do lose this Six Nations. So that's why it's a very kind of relaxing kind of outlook I'm going into it. The target isn't on us at the moment. Ireland has gone down in global esteem. People aren't as afraid of us as they were 2 years ago. So in a way, that suits Ireland. Be the underdog, coming out of the left, surprise them. So that's why I think this could be a really exciting Six Nations. So we will see. That is everything from now, rugby-esque. But do stay tuned if I have a chance to do another prediction on the 23. It's a great game to start off with. It's probably going to be the biggest game for Ireland. It's because we tend to beat England more than France. We tend to kind of front up better against England than we do with France. And it's the first game of the tournament. It's a really tall order in the Stade de France, in, the epicenter of French rugby in Paris. So, can't be more intimidating than that. So it's going to be a great week next week. There'll be a lot of hype about this game. Looking forward to it. Hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Who do you think is going to be a potential to be a breakout player at the Six Nations? Who do you think should be put to the side, maybe put out to pasture? Let me know. Thanks.